Chapter 1. The Bargain of Blood and Vows. The moon shone high above the kingdom of Eltheria, bleeding silver across the dark canopy of trees that whispered secrets of long-forgotten pacts. In the grandest manor of the eastern province, Zoya stood still, her silhouette stiff against the arched window of her father's study. Her nails dug into her palms as her father, Lord Valent, delivered a verdict that would shatter her life. You will marry the lycan of the blackened woods. The pact must be honored. Zoya spun around, the fury in her hazel eyes igniting like wildfire. Get married to a cursed lycan that can never transform into a human? I would rather be a sex slave to all the alphas in this kingdom. Lord Valent slammed his goblet on the table. Enough. You will obey me, Zoya. You owe this family obedience after what you've put us through. Her laughter was brittle. What I put you through? You mean getting cheated on by my sister and ex-husband while you stood idle? The air grew thick with tension. The deal was made to save your sister from the curse. Zoya's voice broke. So you offered me instead? Outside, the howling wind masked the crack of her heart. Yet even as her world unraveled, something inside her clicked into place. She would agree to the cursed marriage, but not because she was afraid. She would do it for revenge. The ceremony was held under the blood moon. No guests, no music, only the scent of burning herbs and the ancient chant of an old druid binding her to the beast. Zoya barely looked at him, the lycan groom. He stood tall in a cloak of onyx fur, hood shadowing his face. They said he had once been the fiercest warrior of the old clans, cursed by a seer to live forever in his wolf form, denied the touch of humanity. When they said their vows, his voice was deep, rough like crushed gravel. I take you, Zoya Valent, not as punishment, but as promise. Her reply was laced with ice. And I take you, lycan, not as husband, but as weapon. The druid did not flinch. Magic flared, sealing the vow with a golden spark between their clasped hands. Days passed in the gloom of the blackened woods. Zoya wandered the great halls of her new home, a sprawling manor carved into the cliffs above the crying valley. Servants were few and silent. The lycan, whose name was revealed to be Kale, barely spoke, but watched her with golden eyes that shimmered in the dark. She found herself studying him, searching for the man he once was. Sometimes, she caught him standing under the moonlight, gazing up as though begging the gods for mercy. One night, she dared approach. Why don't you speak? Kale turned his head slightly. Words are meaningless when promises are broken. Zoya stepped closer. Then why did you marry me? Because you are the key to breaking my curse. Her breath hitched. What? I was cursed by a seer who was betrayed by love. Only one whose heart has been broken thrice can undo it. That is you, Zoya. She staggered back, the wind knocked out of her. You knew. Kale nodded. I have waited decades. Zoya began to change. She trained under the lycan's warriors, learning to fight with tooth and claw. She wrote letters in secret to allies in the kingdom, alphas who once sought her hand. Bit by bit, she wove a network for revenge. Yet Kale, the cursed lycan, began to haunt her dreams. He was always there, sometimes human, sometimes beast, always watching her with aching eyes. One evening, after a sparring match, Kale pinned her to the ground, his breath warm against her throat. She did not push him away. Are you afraid? He whispered. Zoya's voice was trembling but defiant. I'm afraid of wanting you. Their lips met like a storm. For the first time, Zoya felt something other than fury. It was need. It was fire. She spent her nights beside him, tangled in silk sheets and emotions she no longer had names for. Kale spoke more, though only in hushed, thoughtful words. He confessed the loneliness of being half a man, the torment of waking each day in a body cursed by others' sins. One dawn, as snow fell outside, he cupped her cheek and asked, Do you hate me? Zoya's answer was silent, a kiss that tasted like surrender. But the storm of vengeance hadn't passed. Letters arrived from the capital. Lord Valent was plotting to break the union and have Zoya returned in chains. He has joined with House Dervan, Kale warned. Your sister's new allies. Zoya stood from the window, fire in her chest. Then let them come. Let them all come. Kale clasped her hand. You may not return from this battle the same. She smiled bitterly. I haven't been the same since the day they betrayed me. The war came swift. Zoya led the lycans into battle, commanding the beasts of the woods and the spells of the druids. She faced her ex-husband on the battlefield, sword to sword. You never deserved her, he spat. Zoya parried, striking his blade away. And you never deserved mercy. He fell, defeated by the woman he once humiliated. Her sister, desperate, fled to their father. But even Valent's fortress couldn't keep Zoya out. She broke through the gates with Kale at her side. You would kill your own blood. Valent cried. I would kill the man who treated his daughter as a pawn, Zoya replied. But she didn't kill him. She let him live, exiled, powerless, forgotten. Kale's curse broke beneath the fifth blood moon, when Zoya stood before him not as a broken woman, but a whole one. She kissed him as his form shimmered, bones snapping, for retreating, until a man, strong, beautiful, scarred by centuries, stood before her. Zoya, he breathed. She wept. Kale. They rebuilt their world. She became queen of Eltheria, uniting lycans and humans. Kale ruled beside her, not as a beast, but as the man she freed. Their love, once born from fury, had become legend. And Zoya, once betrayed and rejected, stood unbroken. The girl they tried to sacrifice. Chapter 2. Moonlight and Memory. The forest was quiet that night, blanketed in a breathless hush as though the world itself was holding its tongue. The blood moon had waned, but its whispers remained. Zoya stood on the terrace of the lycan estate, wrapped in a wool cloak, eyes cast to the heavens. The stars looked unfamiliar here, sharper and more ancient, like they remembered everything she wished she could forget. Behind her, the heavy door creaked open. You're not sleeping again, Kale said. She didn't turn. Sleep doesn't come easily when your mind is a battlefield. Kale walked up beside her, his bare feet silent against the stone. In the moonlight, his features, still bearing traces of his curse, looked more human than beast, though his irises still gleamed amber. I used to forget the moon was beautiful, he murmured. Before the curse, before the war, I took nights like this for granted. Zoya glanced sideways. Tell me something real about who you were. Before everything. Kale exhaled slowly. I was heir to the Greyfong bloodline. Betrothed to a noblewoman I didn't love. Trained in diplomacy, not war. But I chose war anyway. The curse was my price. And the noblewoman, she betrayed me to the seer who cursed me. All because I refused her hand. Zoya laughed bitterly. Betrayal. It seems we share that flavor of heartbreak. He turned to face her fully. What happened with your ex-husband? With your sister? The words caught in her throat. She hadn't spoken of it aloud since the ceremony. I loved him, she whispered. We were childhood friends. I thought he saw me. But then he disappeared for weeks. When he returned, he was cold. Distant. One day, I walked in on them. My sister. My blood. Kale's jaw clenched. She stole your place in the pact. Zoya nodded. They offered me instead. Said I was stronger. Disposable. Kale's fingers brushed hers. She didn't pull away. You are not disposable, Zoya. You are a storm that no one saw coming. The following days unfolded with quiet rhythm. Zoya trained with the other lycans, earning their respect. She became especially close with Lyra, a she-wolf with piercing gray eyes and a biting sense of humor. One evening, while sparring with Lyra, Zoya stumbled. Distracted again, Lyra teased. Zoya scoffed. Not everyone's used to practicing while being stared at by golden eyes. Lyra laughed. Kale watches you like a starving man watches flame-cooked meat. I'm surprised he hasn't dragged you off yet. Zoya flushed. We're not like that. Lyra arched a brow. Yet. But she was right. Kale was becoming more restless. And so was Zoya. One night, in the library, Kale joined her beside the hearth. His hands were wrapped in bandages from training. May I? She asked. He nodded. She unwrapped the cloth gently, revealing claws retreating into calloused skin. She massaged a salve into the wounds. Their eyes met. "Do you ever wonder," Kale said, "if the curse was a gift in disguise? If pain was the only way the universe could reroute our paths?" Zoya's hands stilled. "Maybe. But I'd still burn the world down to make them pay." Kale's thumb brushed her lip. "Then let me burn it with you." They kissed. This time, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't fueled by rage. It was soft, intimate, a binding of wounds they no longer had names for. That night, Zoya lay in Kale's arms, tracing the scars across his chest. "Promise me something," she whispered. "Anything. Don't let me lose myself to vengeance." "Not completely." Kale pressed his lips to her forehead. "Then let me be your compass." Weeks passed. The alliance Zoya was building in secret began to take shape. Messages came from Alpha Gregor of the North, a shrewd but honorable leader, and from Lady Neres, the exiled highborn who had once challenged Lord Valent. Kale noticed her growing worry. One evening, while they studied a map of the capital, he spoke. "They won't stop. Your father. Your sister. The ex. They think you're buried, forgotten." Zoya's eyes narrowed. "Then let's remind them." She began assembling her plan. First a visit to House Corvin, the estate once promised to her, then the unsealing of the Druid's vault, which contained the remnants of the curse that linked Kale to the seer. "If we can destroy the source," she said, "you'll never revert again." Kale hesitated. "But if we fail?" She clasped his hand. "Then we fail together." The journey to House Corvin was swift but tense. The estate loomed like a broken promise. Zoya walked through its corridors, remembering the girl who had once danced there, naive and in love. In the ballroom, she found her ex-husband, Damien, seated on the throne meant for her. "You came back," he said, voice laced with false calm. Zoya stepped forward. "To reclaim what you stole." Damien laughed. "You traded silk sheets for claws and curses." Kale appeared behind her. "And she found power you'll never understand." Damien charged, blade raised, but Zoya disarmed him easily. She pressed her sword to his throat. "I should end you here. But I want you to live. I want you to see me rise." The vault of the Druid seethed with dark energy. Only Zoya could enter safely. Kale waited at the edge, heart pounding. Inside, Zoya faced the remnants of the seer's curse, a floating crystal wrapped in ghostfire. It spoke. "You are not enough. Just another heartbroken girl." Zoya's voice rang strong. "I am heartbreak. I am vengeance. I am love reborn." She shattered the crystal with her bare hand. The cave trembled. Light exploded. Outside, Kale fell to his knees, crying out. The curse ripped from him like a second birth. When the light faded, he stood, fully human, fully Kale. They returned to Eltheria triumphant. The lycan clans hailed Zoya as moon-blooded queen. She wore her crown of silver, ash, and fire. Her father's allies crumbled. Her sister, exiled. But Kale remained. In their chamber, as he knelt before her, Zoya smiled. "You're not cursed anymore." Kale kissed her hand. "Neither are you." And for the first time, the girl once betrayed, rejected, sacrificed, finally chose her own ending. A happy one. Chapter 3. Ashes of the Old Blood. The sound of boots echoed across the obsidian floors of Eltheria's council chambers. Zoya, clad in a flowing black cloak with silver stitching that shimmered like moonlight, stood at the door of the palace her father once ruled unchallenged. Kale flanked her, now fully human, his transformation the first signal that fate had bent to her will. It was time. "Lady Zoya of Eltheria," the court herald announced, his voice quivering with unease. The nobles gathered, men and women who once whispered of her demise. Her father sat on the obsidian throne with narrowed eyes, her sister by his side in crimson silk, a twisted parody of innocence. Zoya stepped forward. "No longer lady," she said, her voice sharp. "I come not to kneel, but to claim." Gasps filled the chamber. King Valent rose slowly, his face unreadable. "You dare walk into my court in defiance? After abandoning your duty to this kingdom? After you traded me like cattle to keep your alliances intact?" Zoya's tone cut like frost. Let's not rewrite history. Kale's presence alone was enough to send tremors through the room. His reputation as the cursed lycan had preceded him, but seeing him now, handsome and composed, forced many to re-evaluate their prejudices. "You were dead to us the moment you sided with beasts," her sister, Lisa, said, her lips curled into a smile. "Now you return to spit on our name?" Zoya laughed. "You already did that when you spread your legs for my fiancé." Silence fell like a dropped blade. Valent's knuckles whitened. "Leave before I forget you're my daughter." "No," she said. "Today, I remind you that I am. And the blood I carry, the blood of mother's line, is older, purer than yours. I invoke the right of the first flame." Gasps again. The right had not been invoked in a century. It gave the rightful heir, through maternal lineage, a chance to challenge the ruling blood for the throne. Lisa's eyes widened in fear. "You wouldn't." Zoya smiled. "I already did." Preparations for the rite took 3 days. A trial by combat, wit, and legacy, each test rooted in blood and fire. Kale stayed by her side, his strength grounding her. "You don't have to do this alone," he whispered as they stood before the flames that would judge her. "I never was alone," she replied, kissing him. Their bond had grown deeper. Each night they shared was laced with passion and quiet understanding. Kale touched her like a man who had never known softness until her. Zoya kissed him like someone trying to rebuild the pieces of a life stolen. They weren't just lovers, they were survivors. The first trial was combat. Zoya stood against her sister, blades drawn. Lisa fought with fury, but Zoya fought with purpose. Her blade danced with precision, Kale's training visible in every strike. Blood stained the arena floor. Zoya won. The second trial was wit. She faced a council of elders and answered riddles of Eltherian law, exposing corruption, twisting the old rules to her favor. She passed. The final test was legacy. A ritual where the flames of the first flame would judge her worth by burning either blue, for true royal blood, or red, for a usurper. She stepped into the circle, palms open. The fire roared around her. Blue. The chamber fell to its knees. Zoya turned to her father. "You took everything from me. Now I take everything back." Valent bowed his head, not out of respect, but defeat. Zoya ascended the throne not with applause, but with silence, the kind that follows a storm. Later that night, in their private chambers, Kale poured wine into 2 silver goblets. "Queen Zoya," he said teasingly, handing her one. She raised her brow. "Are you mocking me?" "Revering you." They laughed. Then kissed. Their lips met with urgency. His hands traced the edge of her jaw, then slid into her hair. Her fingers gripped his tunic, pulling him closer until the space between ruler and warrior, queen and mate, vanished. That night, they made love beneath the painted ceiling of her ancestors' room. It was tender and slow, full of awe. Zoya whispered against his skin, "We've won a battle. But the war isn't over." Kale nodded. "Then let's end it on our terms."